the Grizzlies are going in. So again, because of the hilltops, I'm really close to these guys and I have no idea what they're going to field. So my plan was to send these guys forward, see if anything was there, and basically push if there is, and dig in if there is something significant, and attack if there isn't. And I find some anti-aircraft defences and a random truck that was probably just the infantry, and we saw some ATKM infantry earlier and some Strela infantry, so that's probably what they ran into. So I can actually see by the map, it doesn't look like the helmet's been moved, it's just been moved to the back of the map for some odd reason. So let's see some Strela 3s defending some Strela mechanized units. However, the Grizzly and these unit out, but they had some MiGs that flew over. This is a problem because I'm pushing units up too far. The ADATs can't cover them, which means they're completely open to airstrikes, which is annoying, but moving the ADATs too close exposes them to frontline fire, so it's a balancing act. So as you can see, there's some Mi-17s that have been flown up. I'm not sure what they were carrying, maybe, or they were just brought in as gunships on their own, but these guys are probably dead. The 17s are... Yeah, look, I've just noticed there is a transport helicopter. I didn't see that. I assumed it was a command helicopter at the time, I think. But yeah, so the Mi-17s are pretty much gunning down the Van Dons, and some BTR-70s are being brought in, so probably more infantry there. So look, got some Starfighters, Freedom Fighters in the Hornet. Also some artillery coming in from a hotel, starting to pepper the ADATs. Obviously I don't want this because ADATs are probably quite fragile units, given they've been panicked a lot. So basically, once they're panicked, they're redundant because they rely on the accuracy of their missiles to hit the target. So now the probe has been destroyed, and I didn't actually see too much. I think, well, they don't have too much, so I think a push of tanks on Kilo and Hotel might work out. But then I see this, and I realise that they do have defences. So as you can see, yeah, I'm gonna basically panic here because that was a lot of tanks. A lot of tanks. So I'm gonna bring up my tow jeeps because against this kind of tank force, I don't think my low-end tanks will fare well. I've also requested help from my enemies because it looks like either this guy was building up a lot of forces, or this is like 2 or 3 people with a combined attack. So I flag out some help with my allies. Maybe they could send jets, but I think all they do is fire some artillery support and some smoke, which I'm not sure is helpful in this circumstance, but okay. So as you can see, I've got about 4 Leopard C1s and 2 Centurions, bringing in some tows as well. I've got these guys flying around the back. Also, look at that, a +0. I have no idea what I killed there, but I got nothing for it. So I don't know what unit in the game is free, but it appears there is one. So as you can see, this is an attack force composed mainly of T-55As. These are very low-end tanks, quite slow, quite badly armoured. Their main gun isn't that anything special, but there you go. But they also have access to some tank destroyers and some Savika anti-aircraft systems. I think they were Savikas, they might be Afghanistanis. And they also have BMP-Ts bringing out the front. Now, BMP-Ts are quite a bad unit for me to deal with because they are they've got an autocannon, a machine gun, and they've got an autocannon, a cannon, and a grenade launcher. So these are so as you can see, they're like just tearing up my units in close quarters. You can see all that tracer fire going everywhere, which is bad. Basically, they're sort of designed to engage stuff in really close quarters, and they're doing a lot of damage. Like my recon helicopter is being shot down. I think some of my tows got shot down. Tanks are being stunned like nobody's business. But as you can see, the tows are arriving here. I'm just buying them in constantly, and just to help repel this attack, basically. Scores now, Pact's caught up, we're about even here. I think if I can repel this attack I'll be doing okay, because as you can see there's a lot of units being thrown at me here. Schulstrom's, it was Afghanistan. So here comes some jets to launch attack MiGs. Now some ALATs were caught up in the land fighting, so they ran out of missiles and were killed by the airstrike. But I had some rear ALATs to do a few hits. That's the problem with the AT-AT's dual purpose, because they got caught up in that fight, which meant they fired all their missiles as ATKMs, which meant when the Jets came in to do some strafing runs on them, they had run out of missiles to defend themselves. And I was too busy buying toe keeps to worry, even though I have about 100 points built up. This is a problem I've noticed with Airland Battle, which is point zones are a lot, there's a lot more points than traditionally, like in European escalation, so it doesn't fare as well. So as you can see, at this point the BMPTs have been broken down. I think some of their anti-aircraft support's been knocked out, but they still have a lot of T-55s still alive. But as you can see, there's been a pretty fierce fight here. So at this point I'm thinking, well, I think because by the time I get any toes into place, they'll have crossed the bridge, and I'm running out of toes as it is. So Leopard C1s are probably the best unit to use. So the Stiltrum are still advancing. I decide that maybe if I can get my helicopter into place, because obviously T-55s only have machine guns. Now the Afghanis are destroyed. Maybe I can use the minigun on this transport helicopter to gun down the Stiltrums, because obviously these are powerful units but weak. So if I can get the helicopter to attack the Stiltrum, at the very least it's going to stun it, so it's going to be taken out of the fight. But if I can kill it, all the better, because they're quite expensive units. More expensive than my tanks anyway. So the Turian's about the only survivor of that battle. SU-27 makes a pass on my helicopter, but somehow doesn't manage to kill it. And I think it flies too close to the AT-ATs. Probably will get shot down now. Yep, it's got shot down. Excellent. So yeah, so the Mi-17s might gun this thing down though, but it's doing a lot of damage to the Stiltrum. And the Leopard C1 finishes it off, but I think the helicopter got shot down in return. So the AT-ATs are now firing on the Mi-17s. That's pretty good, because obviously their rocket pods are now stunning all my tanks just as they cross the hill. And now the AT-ATs is going to probably reconfigure itself as a tank destroyer and start firing at those guys. But obviously there's a lot of T-55s to deal with. Now we're about fairly balancing. Pax just moved into the lead, but this T-55, so hopefully we can rebalance it by knocking these guys out. I also secured the Canadian rifles, because hopefully it'll attract their fire, and if these guys can get close enough, they can use their M72s to blow up some T-55s like that. Let's see, so Pact still has an advantage. I think I've got the second most kills on my team. Tiger X Roxanne's doing well as well, other guys not so much. But at this point I was quite worried, because I only had one AT-AT left, so I decided to buy Canada's secondary anti-aircraft defence, which are infantries with blowpipes. And I don't like relying on AA based infantry, because they're very susceptible to artillery and very weak, and they don't always have the best missiles. And now also I see some T-64Bs. Now this is a problem, because I bought the Leopards, I think the Leopard C1s, to deal with the T-55s, because they were too cheap and for the toes to effectively deal with. But now the T-64s, a T-64A would probably beat a Leopard C1 just about, but a T-64B's got 80 km, so at this point there's no match. So I need to start calling in my more advanced tank destroyers now that he's going to higher end tanks, so I have to respond with higher end tank destroyers. I think this is a 5,000 or 6,000 points, so this match is probably going to be over soon. So at this point I think, right, okay, what can I do? Now they've probably spent a lot of their forces out, but then they could probably reinforce quite quickly. So what I decided to do is try and hit their reinforcement zones. So what I'm going to do is get a Cougar Recon and take my Leopard C1s, which aren't going to be much help against the T-64s. The T-64s are retreated from artillery fire. So I decided to move to the left and try and do a flanking force, possibly mopping up enough kills. But we are actually at quite a bad loss at this point. There's about 1,600 points in it. So hopefully I can bring a flanking force in before the game ends. But it doesn't look good. Pact's on 5,700. It looks like they're doing a pretty big offensive on the left. And I probably should be reinforcing them, but it isn't Wargame. You take your own side. You only call for some, mediocre help as it is. They only sent me artillery support, so if I can, now that I've held off Foxtrot, I can attack into Hotel and the like. But this isn't looking very good at all. They're actually pushing really far down on the left, but I'm tunnel visioned on my own side, so don't really care about that. Just, preparing my defenses for the next attack. 5,900. I fly a starfighter in, there's a few ATKM, but the match finishes before they can reach their target. So with that minor victory for Pact, 6,000 to 5,300. I actually walked in at a small loss at 1,300 to 1,400, but I brought in the most points in my team. As you can see, about 4,000. But until next time, this has been Omagent. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.